Beloved people of God at St. Matthias, you'll notice that this part of the service is not really a historical sermon of the period of 1844. You can grouse about that, and then I can deliver a sermon of the period which would be delivered in a monotone and take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Any takers? Okay. I've actually sat through one of those sermons at Colonial Williamsburg, and I couldn't tell you the first thing about it except that it was extremely long-winded. Some things from our American Anglican background are best left in the past. Our founder, the Reverend Dr. James Lloyd Breck, could not have agreed more. In 1867, he talked about the colonial churches of his youth. I remember several things about these old churches. They had the high-backed pews over which they could see the towering pulpit. As for chancel and altar, they were so contracted and small as to not be known to be there or to have any Christian significance. Chanting was unknown, and so were a good many other things. The Christmas decorations were a few twigs stuck in the high-backed pews, where there happened to be openings or cracks to receive them. All these and many other things happened in the dark ages of the Anglican and American churches. What could have been darker, compared with the light we now enjoy, I know not. Would Episcopalians go back to the churches of 25 years ago? Would they be willing, for any pretense whatsoever of religion, to go back to the naked walls and the white glass windows, the barricaded pews and triple-decker pulpits, and lugubrious metrical psalm singing of those days? Sometimes it's hard to see in historical perspective how much the American Episcopal Church has changed over the 250 years or so of its existence. It's often hard to see beyond our own experience. Breck was talking about the Colonial Church of 25 years previous, with its sparse, whitewashed walls, huge pulpits, tiny portable altars, and tablets of the Nicene Creed and Ten Commandments. The Colonial Church was fiercely Protestant and spurned anything that smacked of what was then called potpourri. This meant that anything that was visually interesting and might distract someone from listening intently to the minister's proclamation of the word was frowned upon. Things like candles of any kind in the church or flowers in the sanctuary were considered Romish and therefore highly suspect. They could get you defrocked as a clergyman, and did in many dioceses. Breck and his companions in Wisconsin, later along with James DeCoven, who's a personal hero of mine, were pushing the envelope of ritual acceptance in the church of their day. They were cutting edge. What were they doing? First of all, they were celebrating the Eucharist every Sunday at a time when that was only supposed to happen once a month at the most. They vested in cassock and surplice, what I'm wearing today, instead of an academic gown. They allowed their choirs to wear vestments. DeCoven, in his chapel at Racine College, had candles and flowers on the altar, changed colors of stoles and hangings along with the liturgical season, and started the service with a processional led by a student carrying a cross. Now, we don't think much of that. It's normative for all Episcopal churches today. But at the time, it was dangerous to one's career. DeCoven was denied 4 bishoprics in various ways because of his Romish liturgical reforms. So why did Breck and DeCoven feel so strongly about this? Because they could see that the visual and ceremonial sparseness of the colonial church did not speak to the aesthetic of the times. The culture was changing around them, and what had worked during the colonial period was now holding the Episcopal Church back from proclaiming the gospel in an effective way. To them, recovery of ceremonial and visual elements of the common Catholic liturgy didn't threaten the church, but strengthened it. And we owe them a huge debt. Look around you. The Gothic architecture, the stained glass, the music, the visual richness, the chanted liturgy, the things we take for granted as being part of who we are as Episcopalians today were innovations that subjected them to public ridicule in both oratory and newsprint and personal difficulty in private. The beautiful liturgy we celebrate every Sunday would simply not be possible without the sacrifices of Breck, de Koven, and others who saw what needed to happen in order for the Episcopal Church to proclaim the gospel effectively in their time. We now face a time that Bishop Mark Dyer refers to as Christianity's 500-year rummage sale. Every 500 years or so, Christianity invents itself. In 500, it was the great councils of the church that forged the creeds. The great schism between the Eastern and Western churches in the 1000s. The Protestant Reformation in the 1500s. We face a time when all of society, the church included, is rapidly reinventing itself in a way we haven't seen in 500 years. Like all those times before, it's a time of confusion, competing claims, and great angst, as the things that worked before has simply stopped being effective, and new ways of interacting and organizing ourselves are in a period of transition. If you feel that nothing is exactly like it was 50 years ago, you're probably correct. But some things are constant for human beings. We still want a vertical connection to the divine. We still desire lateral connection and community with each other. We still want a horizontal sense of history, especially as we step in a new era where so much seems in flux. Moving forward does not require giving up the past. It means bringing out, in Jesus' words, the treasures both old and new. We have experience with this. James Lloyd Breck, our founding saint, was an expert at this. As Episcopalians, we are equipped to speak to this new time in a way that many other denominations are not. We have a robust intellectual tradition that's not at odds with science. We have a tradition of social justice that speaks to the fact that people know that Jesus talked a lot about helping the poor and homeless. And we have worship that can speak to modern sensibilities, but is rooted in the deep Catholic tradition of the Western Church and provides a sense of continuity. And to be specific, people of St. Matthias, can I brag on you some? I don't hear any no's, so I'm going to go ahead. In the 6 years I've been your pastor, you have been unusually willing to accept change. We have tried all sorts of things together. This is what we have to do in a time when everything is changing around us. We have to be venture missionaries. We have to take risks, and we have to be okay with failure. And we've had those. Things like the anchor hold and the Order of St. Andrew didn't really pan out. And that's okay. Other things like EFM and our partnership with Hebron House of Hospitality have worked out really well. Beloved, like our founding saint, we are on the cutting edge. I've had many calls from people at Episcopal churches around the country asking details about how we're doing intergenerational formation. There is a hunger for Christian formation that knits the multi-generational nature of the church together instead of ripping it apart. And then there's books and cooks. I have yet to describe this program to somebody who works with homelessness and not have them light up. We're doing something new and unique. Nobody is doing anything like what we're doing. I have hope that in 2015 we'll be able to open that program up to the other downtown churches, and it will become a living beacon to Waukesha of service in the name of Christ to his beloved poor. It sends a message that we are striving to use our congregational strengths of learning and hospitality in service to those outside our congregation in need. Through it, we practice what we preach. We've been through a lot of change in the last decade, but I'm sorry to say God is not done with us yet. God will never be done with us. Martin Luther once said, "The church is reformed and always reforming." The needs of God's creation change, and we must change in order to serve it. Even as we look backwards to 1844, we have to look forward to 2044, when we'll all finally have those flying cars we've been promised. Our biggest challenge currently is fiscal. In some ways, that's nothing new. In 1861, the church building actually went to public auction due to a debt crisis. We're nowhere near that. But it's our problem today, and it restrains us. So much is going on right here. So many people are finding a presence of the divine to empower their lives, And so many people outside our church are finding help and hope through recovery programs and housing and literacy and food. Our red doors are symbolically open all week and not just on Sunday. But if we value this ministry, we need to guarantee its solvency so that we can celebrate our bicentennial in 2044. Within the next couple of weeks, our stewardship materials for 2015 will be going out to families in the parish, and I would ask you to prayerfully consider your pledge at that time so that we can move forward with our mission rather than remain scrambling to keep operating. Times are changing, and we struggle to find the ways Christ wishes us to make him known in the world. But times are always changing, and following the gospel is always a struggle. Our parish history is a story of trying to wrestle faithfully with God, culture, and mission, because at the intersection of gospel and culture, there's always a struggle. Breck wrestled with it in his time. The faithful of St. Matthias have wrestled with it for 170 years, and we wrestle today. But we shall, with the help of God, come out of the current difficulties as a people transformed by the gospel and carrying out Christ's mission in Waukesha. Beloved people of God at St. Matthias, today we celebrate our 170 years of mission as a parish. Let us look back with pride on the things we have accomplished by the grace of God. But let us not forget the present, nor neglect the future. God wills our red doors be open to all, and as long as they are, I am convinced they will remain open for us. Amen.